Hey, good morning, everyone. Happy Thursday. It is July 11th. Prices of BTC currently at 11,623. Um, I wanted to take away all my drawing tools and sort of go to a higher time frame chart just to be able to show people, exactly where we are in this market, before everyone starts freaking out, calling the top or, saying that we're going to go back down to 6K or, whatever ridiculous number, right? And although those things may be possible, we first have to evaluate what the market has done, what it's doing right now, and what the possibilities and the probabilities are what it could be doing in the near term. Okay. So with that being said, I took away all the drawing tools and I wanted to show you guys we've come a long way since this 2018 2017 top right here, and then this 2018 bear market, right? We got slammed down to 6,000 every time, and we basically had sort of this bouncy ball effect where prices went up and then they came down and then they rolled a little bit lower and then lower and then lower and then sort of just moved sideways and then capitulated right here. Okay, and this is really where a lot of smart money probably came in and picked up the loose asset, right? And typically, when you have this kind of pattern being played out, more than likely at some point you will get a sort of meteoric parabolic rise, because if this is an asset that is going to do something big in the future, there's a lot of global interest. It's supposed to challenge the status quo. I personally believe that it does have some room in the investment markets. So clearly it got picked up and then it got pushed all the way up to, as high as $13,800, and now we're sort of retreating just a little bit around 11.6. Okay, so what that's really doing right now, folks, is we are basically consolidating. This is nothing more than consolidation, I would say. All right, and there's really nothing else that could prove to you otherwise that this is the top, or we won't be going any higher, that kind of thing. Right, so with that in mind, we have to see that, okay, the overall structure right here is still trending up. Nothing has been changed, nothing has been broken. So it's safe to assume that we're going to continue on up, whether it's the daily chart that we look at like this, again, which shows sort of a parabolic movement and a consolidation right here, whether it's the 3-day like that, or whether it's the weekly right here. Okay, even the weekly right here says, all right, we're struggling a bit right here in the 12 or 13,000 area, which makes sense because there's a decent amount of support right here when we first broke down, but then we pop back up here to about 16,000 or so, and then sort of drop down. So of course we're going to struggle in this same area, right, before moving on up. Okay, and let's check out the monthly as well. So I wanted to show you guys exactly what we're dealing with. Even the monthly, you can see that we've had consistently strong movement to the upside. At least for now, we're slowing down just a little bit because you could see sort of the candle spread just getting a little bit smaller. You can see, this candle was a bit smaller in body. This was a bit bigger. This was even bigger. The previous month of June was just a little bit smaller than this one. And now it looks like we're slowing down just a little bit. But does that mean we're going to stop? I don't know. It's hard to tell just yet. We have almost 20 more days to go in this month, so we'll have to see, right? But for the most part, the trend is still intact and the trend is up. Okay, so with that being said, I'm gonna dial back to smaller time frames and see exactly where we are. Okay, so first things first. All right, I mentioned yesterday, if you watched my videos, okay, what we were dealing with is this particular red box right here. Okay, this box right here was pretty important due to the fact that it was resistance right here, support right there, resistance, resistance right there, okay, and even resistance right there. And so once we sort of broke on through all the way up here, right, we went all the way to this high, we never really tested this area of support, right? Typically, when assets are moving up nicely, you want to sort of, move up, come back for retest, retrace, consolidate, and then move up again. Retrace, retest for resistance, turn into support, and then move on up. All right. That is the proper way of a nice, strong movement. Okay, movement that sort of garners confidence in demand. Okay, in the bulls. And because that did not happen, what we really did was we broke through this, didn't even test this as support. So I knew for the most part that at some point we were going to come back to this level. And that's sort of exactly what we did. We came back to this level right here. We broke through just a little bit just to shake people out and make them think that we're going to go back to 9K or whatever ridiculous number. People tend to panic on the most random price action, to be honest. It's not really random in a sense due to the fact that it's really just prices at some point get to people. Okay, the emotions, the losses start catching up. And the losses, surprisingly enough, are very much timed with how the market is trending too. So it's no surprise that when we bounce off here, we take another leg lower down because people think that, okay, they got caught, maybe buying over here, maybe even buying over here. And due to the fact that they don't know that prices are in a decent support area, they think that this breakdown right here is going to indicate we're going to break down further. And so they sell. And when they sell, smart money picks up the asset and then pushes prices up. Okay? It's a different question if prices go lower. That would mean that, okay, it looks like prices are going to require new demand, new support, and that's fine. But do you have a game plan to understand where you're going to pick up positions on BTC or other assets? Do you understand support and resistance levels? Do you understand where the fib levels are laid out, where volume analysis is at play, right? So all these things are sort of critical to understanding the blueprint of what's happening in the overall market, right? Because everything is in these candles, guys. Whether you look at it on the hourly, 4-hourly, daily, weekly, monthly, I've showed you guys already that it's everything that retailers do, professionals do. It's all in here, okay? And for the most part, a lot of this movement is driven by professionals and smart money anyway, okay? And their footprint is in these candles, right? You can see exactly what they're doing, basically. If you forget about all what the retailers are doing, this is all professionals at work, okay? So you understand that when prices tend to bounce at specific areas, when prices tend to move up, you will understand that, okay, there's clearly a trend to this. Something is different about this market. We're trending up still, so maybe I need to buy at this support, right? So there's different ways of sort of understanding markets, and technicals is one of those ways. All right, that's sort of something that we teach pretty heavily in our Cryptosomniac community. So with that being said, what we derived from prices yesterday is that for the most part, I sold off right around this region. 12, anywhere between 12.5 and 12.7 was really my average. And I just waited, okay? After selling off my position, I only had a bit of exposure right here in this, let's see, where was it? I took profit right there, close 15%. On average, I wish I would have written that down here, but I think it's in this channel. And then after that, I sort of started re-entering positions, okay? And I re-entered them again, just back lower here, like I mentioned I would, right? And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait and see if we can break past some higher highs, right? Create some higher lows and create some higher highs, meaning that if we're going to go like this, I want to see something like this as well, okay? So higher lows and higher highs are indicative of the fact that in this particular time frame, we're getting more bullish, okay? And I haven't quite seen that yet, okay? So what I did was I'm buying right here, and if this area right here 11.7 or so becomes resistance, then I would probably say we're going to go back to this green box, okay? And I'll mention how I'll explain how we get that green box. All right, so first we get it from this support right here, okay? And this green box, by the way, folks, is anywhere between 10,750 and about 11,000 or so. So bounce right here, and bounce multiple times right here. We obviously ripped through it a little bit, but mostly it was in this green box. Touched it with a wick right there, bounced again, and then moved away, right? So I would not be surprised if we come back to this area in this green box if this area becomes resistance. So if 11.7 becomes resistance, all right, so I'm going to mark it out for you, okay, something like this, all right? If this area becomes resistance, where did it go? Oh, there it is. The arrow. Okay. Then I would expect at least this area to hit. Okay. I mean, first I would say that maybe this area would hit again, because this is clearly where we found a good amount of support. Okay. So maybe something like this. All right. So I'm going to move that over here. Okay, so keep in mind that your next support could be 11.3 or so, because we did bounce off here. There seems to be a clear amount of consolidation that has happened in this area. So we could potentially double bottom, like this, and then move on up. Or if that breaks, then we can go to that 10.75 to 11,000 that I mentioned. Okay, so now you have some areas to watch, right? But yesterday, if you watched my video, I said this is the area that prices would be expected to bounce, and that's exactly what happened, right? So we actually did open some shorts here and in here, and we took some profit around this region, and then we opened some longs a bit too early, so we closed out on those, but then we opened some more longs a bit lower, and so those are doing decent. Okay, so just something to keep in mind, folks, that price action doesn't mean, price action doesn't have to go your way the minute you buy in. All right, that's something that most people misunderstand. You have to be patient. You have to have a game plan to understand why exactly am I buying here? What is my time frame? What kind of structure are we going to be creating on whatever asset you're looking at, and where are the nearby supports, where are my stops, and where are my profit targets, right? So when you develop a game plan, then you can start thinking about trading this market. Okay, so with that being said, you have some levels to watch based on this little hourly chart. Okay, let's dial back on the daily and see what I mentioned yesterday, and I can explain how exactly that's going. Okay, so here's the daily chart, and again excuse me, yesterday I had mentioned that this daily right here, and by the way, folks, if you look at my chart yesterday or my video yesterday, we were somewhere up here, right? 12,800 or 900 when I did this video about 24 hours ago. And I stated that these two blue lines will be the next support as well, okay? If prices, do break down. So keep an eye on these. You can see that we've pretty much hit both of these. And now that would imply that the next 21 EMA should be coming up to meet us almost perfectly. You could see right there That's exactly where we are on the 21 EMA, right around 11 to 11.3. Okay, so it's of no surprise that we're hitting all the critical supports, whether it's on the hourly or the daily chart, and we are basically bouncing off a critical moving average, exponential moving average, the 21 EMA. All right. Now, with that being said, the next logical area for price to stop at, or should at least, is 11,000 if it breaks further. So if you think that prices are going to break down further, I would probably say that they should not break down further past 11,000. If anything, they need to start reversing soon here, okay, around 11.4, 11.3 at the most. Why? Because you want to maintain this higher low structure on the daily chart. All right, you can see right here, okay, this was the low that was put in, this was the higher low, and now we need another higher low right here. Okay, so that's sort of what I wish prices would do in the coming days. Not necessary that it has to happen that way, but it would be really great because that would keep our trend of a low, a higher low right there, and another higher low right there. That would keep our trend intact, at least in this particular consolidation period. Okay, so now we have to sort of focus and see that if prices are going to turn around, you know, we need to pick up some of the asset right here. And what other assets are we looking at? Well, in my community, you know, everything is posted for the Advantage members, folks. You know, I talk about everything that I'm doing. We talk about options, positions, you know, margin trading, everything right here. And we provide daily Bitcoin analysis plus multiple updates as you are seeing. All right. So with that being said, you know, these videos that you watch are merely, you know, just a small snippet of what we do in our community. Okay. The videos are really just maybe 5-10% of what we do. In large part, what happens to markets through the day is really, you know, what's important, and what you do with that information is also even furthermore and more important, right? So if you want to join a community that's constantly engaged, talking about the market, you know, very great support system, Cryptosomniac community is it, folks. So come join and understand why you need to understand technicals, why you need to be able to properly manage your risk, not piss away your capital, not make mistakes over and over again that you just are not learning from. Okay, you know, the buying high, selling low strategy of most retailers, right? So now that that's sort of out of the way, you know, really ask yourself, what are you in this market for? What is your reason of being, right? So, you know, I hope it's really to be able to come and learn and make money. But if it's not, and if you're constantly losing money, then what are you really doing, right? Are you just wasting your time and your money? Are you making costly mistakes that you're just not learning from, right? Just something to ask yourself, folks. All right. So we went over the daily chart, what we're looking at in terms of, you know, the EMAs, these blue markers that would hopefully hold up, and hopefully, you know, we put in this higher low right here. Okay. The thing that would really get me worried, folks, is if we start breaking past, you know, 11,000, and we close under it, I might get a little bit fearful there due to the fact that I don't know if then the structure has changed, because then what that will imply is we've created a high right here, a lower high, right? And then we try to create low, higher low, higher low, but then boom, we went for a lower low. Okay, that sort of structure hasn't quite really happened, at least not anytime soon, you know, over the past few months, right? All we've really been doing is doing our best to create, you know, sort of higher highs and higher lows, and then keep that structure moving up and away. So that would be a really interesting challenge. I personally don't think we'll deal with that anytime soon, but just something to keep in mind. All right. Okay. I did talk about the fear and greed index yesterday, and this is a perfect drop. Yesterday, this was at 84. The greed was at 84. I mentioned that this is really the area that I like to be in, because this puts retailers on their toes and helps them understand that maybe this market is not trending up. It really just puts fear into their mind, if anything, right? And that's sort of what I personally like, because I don't like everyone and their mother being too bullish, thinking that we're going to go to 20K or 30K. Because typically when retailers are right, which they're never, the markets have pretty much topped. And it might be time to get out. So I like looking at something like this because I like to gauge the idea of what most people are thinking. And so if you want to think like smart money, if you want to think like professionals, you should be comfortable with markets that bleed and stepping into that blood at proper moments, not just randomly, right? When we buy support, like I showed you earlier, that's a wise decision. Why? Because your technicals support it. If it bleeds, right through that support, that's okay. That's a risk that any person has to take, guys. You have to be able to sort of step in front of the bus at times to see if it'll stop, right at your face, or if it's just going to run you over a little bit. It's really the calculated risk that you have to take in markets, right? And at times, and that's why, in my open positions right here, I always mention that, how much capital I have, how much I'm putting into each specific trade, when I'm getting in, when I'm getting out, etc. Okay, so, all right. One more thing that I wanted to mention, and this is a very important update. Okay, so I want you guys to pay attention. All right. I did this, big sort of update around July 5th, and I've been watching this for a little while, so I wanted to show you guys personally. Okay. Really what's happened is, let me see if I can open these up right here. Okay. So I wanted to mention something. All right. So first things first, here's the top of the bull market in 2017. You could see prices climbed a bit higher right here, right? And then volume declined a little bit. All right. And then this is really the top, 19.7, 19.8, right? On December, 18th or something. And then after that, what really happened between December 7th and January 31st or so is, Bitcoin lost about 60% of its price and lost about 30% of its dominance. Okay. And you could see that. And you could see that over here on the lower volume right here, price is actually lower volume right there. Prices climbed even higher. All right. This is typically, a sign that, all right, you got to start being a little bit more careful, because you typically want volume to, kind of keep increasing as prices just push up. Lower volume says there's just, the air is thin up here. There's really not a whole lot of buyers and sellers. And so, this could be potentially an area where prices might just reverse. Okay. And so during that same time span, this volume drop, the sell side volume following that, dramatically increased right there, right? Mid-December really just picked up. And this is where we had the big sell-off, okay? That was our first big sell-off, right? The BTC dominance chart shows that it was 70% almost, right, in 2017 at the high. And then from mid-December to the end of January, between this time span right here, right, we went from that 70% dominance all the way to a low of about 37 or 38% right over here. Okay, so we basically shed, 35% of its dominance in less than a month. All right. And once the price climbed higher with less volume, all that stuff happened. That's where we started to see the altcoin dominance chart, find a critical low and then bouncing sharply after that for the next month. So what I'm trying to say is really what happened was, once BTC topped off right here, okay, or bottomed out in this area right here, the alts, right? BTC was at the top. So when BTC started coming down, alts started taking off, okay? Now, what we're really looking for is similarities and fractals of what's happened in the altcoin market back then to what's happening right now, all right? Now, you can see clearly that alts are very, critically low right now, all right? However, BTC dominance has not found a top yet. Let's see if we can pull up the BTC dominance chart. Okay, here's the 3-day chart. Let's take it on a line. Here it is, right? All right, you can see BTC dominance, consistently keeps climbing. At one point, I think it was, again, like I said, 69.3 up here. And that's really where we are, coming up very close to it. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that we are coming really close to a high of BTC dominance and to a low of the altcoin dominance. So what I'm expecting is at some point we're going to see something similar to an alt season. Now that doesn't mean the entire altcoin market is going to explode, but I do think some high quality alts are actually due for some big moves coming up. Okay, and so what I spotted was also this bullish divergence right here, where there's lower lows being created in the quote unquote price, and then higher lows right here being created in the RSI. Okay, now typically you do see a reversal in the asset itself when that bullish divergence prints. Hasn't quite happened yet. But again, I'm just stating that I'm expecting something of a shift in price action once BTC is done moving. I don't think BTC is done moving just yet, to be honest, because there's a decent amount of movement still happening in Bitcoin. Volume is still sort of high up there, in my opinion, for BTC. Sell side volume hasn't quite stepped up to really its high. So I would expect, Bitcoin to maybe take us to, I don't know, somewhere the 16 to 19K area over the coming weeks. And then maybe we can think about that, alt season. Okay. It's really just something that I'm weighing. And I've thought about it quite a bit. I just don't think that alts are just going to die off like that. I do think that there's going to be some high quality alts that will be moving. You'll see significant gains in those. And I have identified a few, and I'll be letting my community know. So, if you are sort of looking at this market thinking that, alts are just going to die off, I don't know. Don't be so quick to, write the alts off just yet. Because we've gone through this, same motion before a good 2 years ago. Right? And we may go through it again. Okay. So with that being said, keep an eye on Bitcoin dominance, keep an eye on the others dominance chart, which is the altcoins, and we'll see exactly what BTC does, over the coming days or weeks. All right. In my opinion, I think we're still trending up. I think we're going to really catch a lot of people by surprise by really just ripping through 13, 14, 15K, and right around, I would say 19 and 20K. I think that's really when we're going to experience that big FOMO. I think a lot of the bots, algos, and a lot of retailers will definitely go long, just like retailers want long up here. I think they'll probably go long right around 20,000. Why? Because they don't want to miss out on the boat. They clearly didn't want to buy down here. for some reason 20,000 to them is more attractive than 6,000 or 4,000. So be it. It's fine by me. But I would say, like I said, 18 to 20,000 will really be that big sort of FOMO really just coming into the market, in my opinion. So I'll be watching that area, and that might be the time where the altcoins really just step up. All right, folks. I think I've covered a lot. Did want to cover some wave counts. Let's see. Let me see over here where we are. All right. So, wait a second. Okay. All right. So we had this 5 wave structure right here, right? And I was drawing this out. So wave 1 and 2 were pretty visible, like clearly evident, right? Now wave 3 sort of brings an interesting predicament. I would say this is wave 3 right here. This is wave 4, and this was the top for wave 5. Okay. Now what that sort of does is that because this is wave 5, again, we're probably in that ABC correction, all right? Typically the ABC correction pulls back anywhere between 61.8, maybe the 50 fib. So if we draw it from this bottom right here to this top, you could see we're coming up very close, and we already hit that 50 fib actually, right there, right? 618 is as low as about 10,900. And surprisingly enough, that 10,900 matches up to that area that I spoke at the beginning of this video, which is 10,750, and 11,000 would be your next big bottom if prices get rejected at this 10,750 marker right there, right? So now that we're coming close to that, this ABC is probably actually in play. That was the A, B, C, okay? Or we might be in the middle of C actually. But I don't think prices are gonna go much deeper, to be honest, because the overall, shakeout right here, the volume that went into this for this shakeout, and then the subsequent volume that went into this candle and this candle has been drastically reduced. And we also created a lower bottom, or I'm sorry, a higher low bottom right here, right? So you could see volume was significantly higher in this candle, trended up right here, but then slowed down this, and now I think we would be slowing down again, all right? And this would allow for that next, higher low to be created, and then that next push towards, 13,000, maybe 14,000 or higher. All right. Okay, folks. My wave counts now. The levels that I'm watching, like that green box that I mentioned. Okay. If it doesn't break past, this 11,350 area or whatever, I would say prices may bounce up even higher, but obviously it needs to first cross, just about this 11,750 area. And then at the very least, it needs to cross again 12,200 or so. And then it needs to cross 12,800 and then 13,200, 13,300. Right? So there's always sort of layered steps to price action. Price doesn't sort of just move straight up. Okay, it always sort of stair steps. It goes up, consolidates, retraces, moves up, consolidates, retraces, moves up. Right, and then usually after that 5-wave impulse, like I mentioned, Elliott waves work in 5-3 counts, meaning 5 waves up, 3 waves down, 5 waves up, 3 waves down. Okay. All right, folks. Hope you enjoyed my analysis today, and if you did benefit off this move right here, or you did sort of open some shorts up here, kudos to you for listening and paying attention to market structure. None of this is sort of voodoo magic, guys. It's stuff that we've done for a long time. I've even explained my background in here along with our other analyst, and you can see exactly why we love this space, how we trade, what our style is, and you can read this on your own at your own leisure. And then you can also check out this gains reviews channel. This is really where a lot of people are posting the benefits of joining our community, what they're seeing, how they're essentially making gains, making money based on our information, our education that we provide. None of it's financial advice, but we could do our best to provide you, good scenarios to be able to take advantage of the market. All right. So check out all these, these reviews, folks. Tons of good reviews. I promise we don't pay these people, right? Just good people following our information and making good money. All right. So that's all I got to say, folks. Take care. Cheers. And come join Cryptosomniac, cryptosomniac.com. And if you buy the 1 week course, you will get 1 free week in the Advantage membership. Just message me right here, or you can just join Advantage for 1 month for $97 a month. All right. Cheers.